and take responsibility for that, because I know that it really sucks to like work all day and then have to try to keep up on issues. But like I said before, it'll get to a point where people are very uncomfortable, and then they'll see why they should have been paying attention. So you need to write letters to you need to ask questions to them. You need to like try to vote and try to get to know the constituents. Unfortunately, in our town, a lot of them run uncontested. So you're like, they just get to whoever wants to can be it. So more people need to run as well. And also, I think, yeah, I just really think that like getting people into office that understand that equity will improve the life of all of us. The rich people, the poor people, there will be money saved. So talk about the EMS thing going on right now, right? Where they're the levy. So just think how much money we could save if we weren't putting Band-Aids on this situation that's just hemorrhaging, because there's no, first of all, very basically affordable housing, but also the shelter. And so we could, if they need more money, we could immediately save them a lot of money by putting the shelter up. We could immediately save the police system. We could, the jail system.
Bremerton desperately needs money.
Yeah, we need money. And so if you look at the 2025 to 2026 budget, it was, I think, 15 million approximately for EMS, like emergency medical, and then another 15 million for the legal system. So that's like, it was like $32 million that we're setting aside, and that's gone up millions over the last few years. And so we're literally complaining about blight and hobos, they call them, and all these derogatory names, whatever you want to call a homeless person, they're still out there. And so we're complaining about all of them, and then we're creating laws to criminalize them, and then we're spending more money not helping them.
But the blight is the empty Sizzler and the empty Denny's and all the other buildings that have sat empty for more than a decade, that they allow these owners to write off on their taxes every year, because it's more beneficial for them to do that than to take it for eminent domain or make them sell it, right?
Yeah, well, and then we're blaming the guy on the street who's got severe, a lot of these people who are unhoused, they have medical conditions. And so we're treating them all as under a blanket term, and as all deplorable, horrible human beings without even knowing who they are. I know who they are. For 20 years, I've worked directly with people who are in this situation. I can vouch for them. They're not deplorable. They're not horrible. They're worthy of the same human needs. They have the same human needs that all of us have, like having a bathroom for one would be nice. But yeah, we're constantly focusing on them as the problem. We're creating laws to disproportionately criminalize them, and we're not holding our city at all accountable. And when we do, we are silenced. We have public records requests showing when Jose and I were really putting more heat on about holding them accountable for lying when they're working under their official business. And then that developer sent in photos. It was so strange. This guy, I looked him up. He's apparently like a sensei in karate. He's a huge man, a billionaire probably by now. And he sent in a letter basically stating he was like scared of me. There was pictures of me in the documents he sent the city, basically saying to silence us, to handle us. And then the great pause happened.
Right. But that is one of the tactics that they use, right? One was to call you terrorist. You had folks on city council saying that they were afraid of Jose, who whenever he comes to the dais, first off, he's out of breath, can barely walk and talk, but he's going to somehow jump over the dais like Starsky and Hutch and assault Denise and Jennifer. And it's,
What's going on? It was such an act.
It's such a racist thing to do. And they know that, right? I mean, they're educated in that. I mean, what an offensive thing to say. And both, I believe, were supportive of REACT and knew better than that. Just a really egregious thing. I want to pass that same question to you, Jose. And again, these are folks that want to be in solidarity from afar, but it's also folks that are here close. And I typed in the chat maybe about 20 minutes ago, again, one of the things I love to say is power is taken, is not given. You cannot wait for your government to give you things. They're not going to do it. You have to take it. And the other thing that I typed in the chat as well is that, yes, you do need to vote. It is important, but you need to run. That is even more important. The folks that run for city council and for these positions, whether it's school board or whatever the case may be, these are just everyday people, just like me and you. Oftentimes, they don't know anything. When I first started the Conduit podcast, I interviewed Rob Gelder, and he had just moved to Kitsap, and he ran for commissioner. Didn't know anything about Bremerton, and I kind of felt like, why would you feel like you should run to be commissioner of a place that you just moved to? You know anything about the region? I don't think you deserve to be a commissioner. You don't know anything about the place, right? But it's his right to run, because as long as the law said you were eligible to do so, you can. And he didn't win, I think, at first, but he ran again, and then he won. And he's still in office. So, I mean, he's doing his thing. And he's a great guy. But, it's just, hey, I want to do it. You are a resident. You have the right. You have ideas. You live here. Run. They do it, right? You probably have a bigger heart, and you are for the people and the people that actually need your voice to be heard. So run for office. Just like Kimmy was saying, many times these seats go unopposed, and you've got a lot of folks that are ready, willing, and able to support you once you get into office. And that is really where the work starts, right? That is a lot of what happened with Obama. Is when he got in office, it was like, oh, you're there, and then the support stopped, right? That's when the real work happens, because now you've got to make sure that they do what they said that they were going to do when they campaigned, and that's true for anyone. So if you support a candidate, you got to make sure that they do what they said they were going to do, and that goes for anyone. But you need to run. That's really a big deal. So consider it. It's not too late. November is coming up, so if you want to do that and your heart is in the right spot, please, get a hold of us, and we will definitely support you in that endeavor. But that is where the change is going to come. Do not be distracted by national politics. Yes, is it important to vote for the presidency? Yeah, sure. But down ballot elections are the most important. That is what affects you the most, your city. And so you really need to figure out what's going on. So educate yourself. Jose, your thoughts?
I would add, and this is really corny, what I have done at council, it's super corny. Sometimes I feel like this is dumb. Why do I have to come here and talk about truth or stop deceiving? It sounds weird, and that's because this town is weird. When you have these fundamental principles and laws not only being violated, but actually hidden from the public so that the public has no reason to know something's really wrong, that's like a deep, deep deception of the public. That is a fundamental betrayal of the idea that you hold office in public trust. So when I talk to people who are young and they're engaged, we had a good turnout for the protest at council against the MFTE. I call it the MFTE gravy train, right? We had this young lady. She gave a comment, so I'll use her name. And this young lady is a brilliant writer and athlete, Monica Houston.
Hey, shout out to Monica.
Yep. And she showed up at this MFTE hearing, and she kind of broke my heart. And she spoke in a way that was completely different than I do, and I think anyone else does there. And what she basically said was, come on, we can do this. We all know that when you subsidize developers to the degree they're being subsidized here, that there's displacement. So it was not only a rational point she was making based on history, countless studies, but she was calling to the spirit of fairness and decency, and the idea that Bremertonians if they were really trying and really paid attention to each other, that this is something we would all want, all of us, developers included, that we can kind of unify and do the right thing. And
yeah, but
and so it was kind of heartbreaking because it was so sincere. She was exhorting the public. She wasn't doing the Jose thing, because Jose is often in grief.
yes.
And Jose is often in anger because of these fundamental violations by people we should be entitled to trust, right? So Monica went there just being herself and came from a completely different stance. And so for a person like Monica, what I typically end up doing, probably begging them, is like, what can I tell myself, what can I do to encourage this person to go into law by hook or by crook? And, if you go into law, you're probably going to be in debt for your life, for life. It's hard. It's hard work, and it puts you in a pressure cookie professional environment typically. So it's a hard task, and it's hard to make a living, especially when you're young. But that's all I can do, because until ordinary citizens do what I'm doing, and I'm doing it because I kind of had a basic aptitude, but I also had kind of professional experience, right? It had a personal meaning to me, so I really applied myself to it, because I often thought of my mom, right? Growing up as a young kid, my mom was constantly beseeching the heavens, because as a tenant, as a poor person, as a Puerto Rican woman, she was always the underdog. So she was always in a state of pressure. And when I realized I could use the law to help people, thanks to my bosses tolerating me, wearing gym shoes and whatnot, when I realized that, I thought, holy cow, anyone can do this. You don't have to be a paralegal. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can get literate on these fundamental ideas, these standards of law, and you can hold your elected officials, your planning commissioners, your Andrew Spencers, you can hold them accountable simply by knowing the standard. For instance, Andrew Spencer works under the legal standard of impartiality. Once you realize that, and you see that she keeps putting not only her thumb, but her entire foot on the scales to favor developers, you can hold up this standard in public and say, wait a minute, why is everything about favoritism towards Southwest Group, but we somehow cannot even manage to get a porta potty for the homeless population? How does that work? Why is that happening? So when you hold up this standard that has millennia of law behind it, impartiality, working towards the public good, rationality, when you have that standard, that amplifies your voice. And when you pass that standard around, it is something easy to rally the public, because we all want to be good. We all want to do good. And the way that you can be sure you're on the right track is if you simply use the tradition that's been around for like 200 years, 250 years, this idea of fairness, of equal protection, of equal allocation of resources. That's a powerful voice. It is no longer your voice. You have embraced and adopted the voice of a million ancestors, right? So the law is powerful. All you need to do is be confident in it. Learn how to look it up. Learn how to read it. Learn how to speak it. Don't let the law die by being silent. The idea of fairness is imbued in American law. We shouldn't be shy about using law to protect each other.
All right, so that's what I put in there. I put in learn, write counsel, vote, run for office, support others who run or who are elected. Use your skills. You could do research. You could drive. You could cook, right? There's a lot of different ways, right? You could be adjacent to others. All right, so I wanted to answer that question there. Again, keep your questions and comments coming. And again, thank you for tuning in to this great conversation. We're going to go ahead and jump into some more questions and comments that are in there. Dawn Michelle has another good one here. Denise Frey said something like, "How am I supposed to sell Harrison Heights to investors with a shelter there?"
Yeah, it's pronounced. Did she say Frey? It's Fry.
Yeah,
Make sure you say Fry.
Fry?
Yeah, it's not Frey. So Denise was okay with the site. I don't know if everyone knows. She's okay with the site at the Swing Set Mall. She totally 100% endorses it. The Swing Set Mall is really right. Not that it. I'm not saying that this matters, but if people want to give arguments about children, even though there's homeless children too, it's really close to the infant and daycare center. And then also, if you've noticed, all the new hundreds of houses like right behind that old site is residential. So deeply residential, like right next to the infant and daycare center. But she was okay with that. The only time we started seeing opposition in her district was when it came to knowledge about, it's all on public records, when she was asked by the developer to get in on this opportunity zone. And unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't think the housing authority or the nonprofit partners knew that they were purchasing an opportunity zone area, because the federal government releases those tracts of land at a certain time. And I highly doubt people are like up to date on that and like realize that this land is going to be what's an opportunity zone that a developer is really going to want, because he's going to become a billionaire, trillionaire in that spot. He's no taxes for like years and years, and all of his investments race return is amazing. And you can just Google do opportunity zones work, and there's like dozens of articles, scholarly articles that'll teach you about how they really unfortunately didn't pan out like they were intended to, or how they were stated. So she, to Don Michelle's question, it's what did she say?
She said, "How am I supposed to sell Harrison Heights to investors with a shelter there?"
Yeah, because she's saying that they think that they have a gold mine there, and they feel like it will increase the blight there. But they have to think outside the box, and that's what we're trying to do, is provide real education. This is making my point again, where people, it's like me taking my car to a mechanic, and then he's fixing my carburetor, and I come around and I'm like, oh no, actually, that's not, how you do it. We have to let the partners and people that know how to, decrease the blight in our community will be by having this homeless shelter. So they're thinking of it as this incredible blight in their gold mine, and like all of the people that will be moving here to live in their high-rise luxury apartments are not going to want to see the homeless, but they're going to see the homeless in the opportunity zone. They're going to be all over their like luxury, just like on Quincy Square. There's unhoused people down there all the time. And that's what they're trying to avoid, but they're increasing the chances that they're going to see that by not providing for all socioeconomic groups in society.
So let me share something. On the 4th of July, we turned 250 years old. And, I've been too busy to do podcasts. And, I decided to do a podcast on this 4th of July. And I was given an email from the Foundation of Homeless and Poverty Management. And for many that don't know, they purchased a building which is literally right across the street from this property.
Right.
And they purchased this property years ago during COVID. I know because I actually wrote the contract for this building when they were trying to purchase it. All right. So I know all about this property. And many people don't know that. And this might be the first time that people are knowing about it, because when they originally tried to purchase this property, their funding fell through at the 11th hour, and they were going to lose the building. And so I wrote a proposal to the owner, and he went for it. And so they ended up getting an extra year to find the funds for the building, and they got the funding. Now, based on this quote that Denise allegedly has said, and the fact that Jose says that there are some emails that she has divulged out and shared and that she wants to develop, the Foundation for Homeless and Poverty Management has not been able to get their permits for the last several years, even though they have been given state money and funding from multiple sources to create a day center for the unhoused, right? And the founder, Drayton Jackson, is from New York, and he was homeless there, and he was homeless here. They have had some operations there where they've had DSHS and WorkSource, I think maybe even KMH, where they were coming out and serving the unhoused population instead of them going there, which is great. And his vision is, folks that are unhoused are tired and they need a safe place to be where they're not attacked, right? And so you need a place for folks to be. Now, he is almost, what is the foresight that he had, not seeing that no one knew that Salvation Army would lose their funding and they would have to close their day center and folks would be displaced. But had they had their permits, this is where the unhoused would be during the day. They would be at the Foundation for Homeless and Poverty Management. Well, he also looks like a prophet in that the Bremerton Housing Authority purchased the property literally across the street. So now you would have these different types of shelters, and then they would sleep there and they could go across the street and get services and have a day center right there. Now, this was already bought, purchased, and operating years ago. So is this also an effort from City Council and maybe Denise to make sure that this does not thrive? So this just seems like a huge sabotage, right? I don't want this to exist in any form or fashion, so we're going to make sure that this dies on the vine, right?
By design.
Now, at the same time, I had an interview with the executive director, shout out to Robin Lund of the Kitsap Rescue Mission. And if you remember, they were downtown next to the Salvation Army, and they were relocating to Port Orchard. And so they were at the Quality Inn out there on Kitsap Way during COVID. And there were a lot of NIMBYs out in Port Orchard and a lot of folks that are very worried about them existing in a neighborhood out in Port Orchard. And so the fight and, everything in the Kitsap Sun, I mean, it was really bad and got really nasty. Well, what she reported was, they've been out there now for a couple years and they've only had 2 complaints. And the complaints were just about noise. And many of the NIMBYs that were there are now volunteering for the Kitsap Rescue Mission, right? And so it's safe, right? There are no issues. And so outside of the noise. And so the things that folks are really concerned about, and shout out to Patrick, he said he attended a planning commission meeting on Monday, and the ignorance of the speakers who are against the Sheridan location is astounding. And folks are afraid, right? They're afraid of what they don't know, right? You have to address it. It's an issue. And so when COVID was going on and you had Wheelerville and Coughlinville and you had the tents, and when you started to disperse the homeless throughout the city, they moved right across the bridge and all the way up to Rydell. And the mayor was just pushing them to the other side of Rydell, which is unincorporated Bremerton. But you see the carts and you see people in different easeways all throughout Bremerton now, right? And so it's an issue, but we have solutions that are in place. And then what did we have the other day? And this was all over Facebook yesterday. Let me go ahead and just put this up on the screen for folks to see. I can't even keep up with everyone is just going crazy in the chat. Thanks everybody. They continue to insinuate a shelter in the area will increase crime and destroy property value. Yet, just last night, there were shots fired 0.7 of a mile from the suggested shelter site, which is about a block away from where we're sitting right now. Curious to know what the crime rate is in the neighborhood has been historically. Many of the comments on social media stated again. So you're so worried about the crime that the homeless are going to bring not even a mile away, but the residents here in Viewcrest Village are saying again that this is historically a high crime rate area. But these aren't homeless people. These are housed people.
You have to see who's he getting his information from when he said they said that the crime will increase. Who are they? That's really important. That's the first step you take.
But you love to blame the homeless, right? It's easy, right?
The city actually did a presentation multiple times that showed how shelters decrease the crime in the areas where they're placed. However, they're sort of like, again, omitting that information now when the land change was something that was not liked by all of them anymore, because they want to develop those luxury apartments and another opportunity zone up there for the wealthiest. And I think we do need to have wealthy people. Obviously, we do need to have all classes, but we're talking about here is equity, and we're asking for something that's still barely helpful. It's still barely going to touch the surface of what the real true issue is, which is affordable housing, and then also incredible needs, medical needs. Like we're talking about when we talk about somebody, that has like a medical condition, like cancer or something, we're like, oh, we let the experts deal with that, and like that, that poor person has cancer and this is how you treat it. But when it comes to homeless people who also have a myriad of medical issues, people become doctors and nurses and mental health professionals immediately and just say, no, like, these people are all bad. We're not going to let these experts say what they need. And it's just so backwards to me how we've allowed that narrative to go on for so long, that like just random people who have never stepped foot on the front lines with us are now suddenly experts about all of these weird studies they're quoting, which you could completely debunk them so easily. These are the same exact things that they've been saying for like a decade that have been debunked. So that they're very like not aware of what's really happening or what the truth is. They do see things getting worse. I will give them that. Yeah. Because we don't have the services, right. Because we don't have the affordable housing. Your eyes are not lying to you. This is horrible. The drug use, the children in cars with their moms, the single dads. You had a single dad text me last night saying him and his 11-year-old daughter in a car asking me where to go to get cool. You guys don't see the real faces of homelessness